Hello, wonderful viewer, and welcome to a closer look at Waiting for the Barbarians. My name is Gabby Pizzuti, and I'll be your host for the evening. Let's just get right into it, shall we? So, Waiting for the Barbarians is a novel by J.M. Coetzee. It was originally published in 1980, but the edition we'll be discussing today is from 2004. It's said that Coetzee drew inspiration from Constantine P. Cafavi's poem, also called Waiting for the Barbarians, which was published in 1904. Coetzee's novel has a movie adaptation that stars Johnny Depp and Robert Pattinson, so there's that. Anyways, let me give you a super basic summary. The plot revolves around a magistrate in a remote outpost who gets confronted with the moral quandaries and the cruelty of the Empire's treatment of the barbarians, which subsequently leads him to his personal and ethical awakening. As he goes through this journey, he faces challenges that put him and his newfound morals to the test. Okay, so now that we kind of know what's going on, let's dive a little deeper and look at the historical material / context. So, like I said earlier, Coetzee based his novel on Cafavi's poem, and that's really important to remember when considering the historical material of the book. Now, if you're not an English student or a diehard Robert Pattinson stan, you probably haven't heard about Waiting for the Barbarians. Maybe the movie, but probably not the book, and that's okay because that's why I'm here, to hopefully teach you a little something. So let's get into it. J.M. Coetzee is South African. He wrote Waiting for the Barbarians during the late 70s and published it in 1980. This was a time when apartheid had its claws especially dug into South Africa, and as a result, there are so many parallels between the apartheid regime and the empire in the book. For those of you who don't know, apartheid was a policy of strict racial segregation and discrimination enforced in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. The way the novel skillfully explores the dehumanization of the barbarians by the empire ingeniously parallels the racial discrimination, dehumanization, and oppression that was actually happening in South Africa. A quote that I find perfectly relates to this subject is, "In private, I observed that once in every generation, without fail, there is an episode of hysteria about the barbarians." That was said by the magistrate right at the start of the book, on page 7. For the first time here, the magistrate mentions the cycles of time. He's thinking about how every generation experiences fear of a barbarian attack, and I just think this quote is so clever because although it is a fictional story, the sentiment holds true. History repeats itself. And I think Coetzee wrote this in such a clever way because so does fiction. Even in fiction, there will always be right and wrong, and people who choose to fight the way Coetzee portrays the torture and violence that the empire subjects upon its people is almost identical to the way South African government shut down anti-apartheid activists. His real-life experience allows him to create such a raw, captivating, fictional portrayal of real events. It allows the readers to transport themselves into the violence and to understand it, almost as if they've experienced it for themselves, like Coetzee. And that's going to bring us to the end of our analysis of historical context / material. Now, onto his genius use of imagery. So, Coetzee depicts the barren frontier environment in a striking and eerie way. The feeling of immersion is contrived through the imagery, and it's almost as if you can feel like the sun scorching down on you and the boiling hot grains of sand beneath your feet. The ingeniously expressive imagery serves a purpose. The empire's policies are as lifeless and unyielding as the very land upon which it is built. Symbolizing the fierce, unending conflict between the empire and the barbarians, the dunes reflect the barbarians' unrelenting struggle for justice. It's a conflict that seems to have no resolution, just like the dunes seem to have no end. The settings imagery isn't the only powerful symbolism that Coetzee uses. The way he describes the brutality and dehumanization towards the barbarians evokes a painful, strikingly clear image. Here's a quote that I find fitting. "At the end of the rope, tied neck to neck, comes a file of men, barbarians, stark naked, holding their hands up to their faces in an odd way as though one and all are suffering from a toothache. A simple loop of wire runs through the flesh of each man's hand and through holes pierced in his cheeks." It's this image of the barbarians being marched naked into the town that encapsulates the essence of torture in the novel. And that brings us to the end of our analysis. I know that was pretty heavy stuff, so I thank you for sticking around. Also, I hope you enjoyed the video and most importantly learned something. So that's all, everybody. Thanks for watching.